Welcome to Carolina Sculpture Studio. My name's Clint Button. I'm a granite sculptor. Welcome to video number 12 of the Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. Now that we're cutting stone, I wanted to mention, I mentioned mask and dust mask, and I want to, in suction and how important it is to have some management of your dust and not just make a crazy cloud of dust, especially if you're using something like a hand machine, or more importantly, if you're using a saw, because these generate perfectly fatal dust. The dust is so fine that it goes everywhere. It will be in your clothes, it will be in your car seat, it will be in your house, it will be in your shoelaces and eat up your shoes. It goes everywhere. So I wanted to touch base real quick. Now that we're all experts on masks after years of the pandemic and everything, I wanted to point out a little bit about masks related to stone dust. When you cut stone, you produce, Giuliano says, no, he says, the dust, he says, the pieces you see, they don't bother you. It's all the stuff that floats around that you can't see. And that's exactly right. If you wear a normal, well, say you took one of these, pandemic everywhere's looking masks, or even an N95 type mask that's actually designed to, this is actually an N95 mask. I didn't know I had them. These have been laying around because I never use them, because they don't work. What they do is they filter out all the heavy dust and they let the perfect dust, that dust that's so fine you can't see it, stop it, whatever, they let that perfect dust go deep into your lungs. And when these dust masks, these cheap ones, load up with dust and you suck on them even harder to breathe, you're going to inhale and ingest that dust even deeper than you would otherwise. So if you don't wear a high quality mask, don't wear a mask. There's no reason to put one on your face. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of money. Just suck up the dust and live with it as long as you can. My grandfather died with 10% of one lung of capacity related to silicosis because he had dust really bad. He lived to be 80, but he couldn't breathe. When you buy a mask needs to be rated at a P100. That means particulate 100. It's rated to remove or at least 99.9% of all particulate. It's that fine of a filter that it will capture that fatal dust that gets deep into your lungs and just sits there for the rest of your life. Now, marble, calcium carbonate, your body can metabolize to a certain point and everything, and that was the big issue when everybody came from Italy to Vermont in the granite industry to carve stone. The first generation, they all died because they're used to working in dust their whole lives. They hadn't been around mechanized dust, and they hadn't been around silica dust. It's a different animal. Silica, you breathe that dust in you. I'm sure I have dust in my lungs from every single piece of stone I've ever laid a tool on, because it erupts into the air and you get some of it, even if you've got good suction. So all that dust is in you and it just stays here. It's not going anywhere. It's glass, it's silica. It's not going to go anywhere. So if you buy a mask, it has to be a P100 rating. You can look right on the label and it'll list it. Organic vapor, doesn't matter. Chemical stuff, doesn't matter. None of that. P100, it has to be a P100 mask, or there's no reason for it to be on your body. It's a waste of money. Okay, so if you just tie a bandana around your face, or use one of these little wimpy masks, or even an N95 mask, don't waste your money. Spend your money, buy a good one. I would recommend buying one that has filters. Buy one that's local. So when you run out of filters, you don't have to wait 3 days to get back to carbon, because you got to order them and get them off Amazon and they're back ordered. Try to find someplace that's local and get these are 3Ms, and that's what I like to use. Now, I've got a professional suction system that's designed for the granite industry that when I restored a couple of my booms and bought the ball joints that go at the end of them. They said that I bought the last ones they had on the shelf, and they'd had them for decades. So most people aren't going to be able to get them. What I have purchased that's easy to get is one of these Oneida dust deputies. See if I can get that up. I had to do an on-site project and rework some limestone columns, the bases on some plinths on some limestone columns on site. And I had to, I was trying to get it done, so I was going to diamond saw off the bulk of the stone. Part of it was going to be very fragile because of the way they were designed, and long story. When I used my shop vac, it loaded up and saturated the filter immediately, like just stopped it. I had, 30 seconds, and the motor on the vacuum was screaming. I had to do something else, and I had to manage the dust. I couldn't run water because we're in a public plaza in front of a cultural building. So I thought I'd try one of these dust deputies because I'd heard good things about it. And I was amazed, absolutely blown away. I could diamond saw with my little side grinder here, diamond saw limestone right into the hose on my, the vacuum cleaner hooks up here, then you hook another hose onto this. I could go, and I think I had a bigger flare end on the hose just to help direct towards the suction. It would separate out the diamond saw dust from the limestone that I was cutting. It would separate out the dust, and there would be absolutely no dust, just a negligible amount of dust, nothing that would put on anything or register or coat anything, coming out of the vacuum with no filter. It blew me away. I literally could not believe how well this worked to make it a dust-free environment for me to work in. I was so impressed that as soon as that job, I got the check, and I called Oneida and ordered a custom one for my studio. Like, didn't even consider something else. I immediately bought one for the studio. And it's greatly improved the efficiency of my system because most of the dust is filtered out, is taken out of the airstream before it reaches the filter media. And so these are, I think, under $100. They are absolutely phenomenal. You can buy heavier duty ones. I have tried them. I know this one works. This one works so good that if I'm carving out with a big project that's too big for my crane and studio and I'm carving outside, I vacuum the ground to get all the stone chips up after I'm done with this to clean it up, because you don't suck up all the garbage goes in here. The grass pieces, the stone pieces, everything. So if you don't have something for dust collection, and especially if you're using power tools, something like this on a shop vac will make a huge difference in your operations. So I'm not getting paid by Oneida. They charge me for their big thing, and I doubt they're going to send me any check. These work. These are good money spent. All right, back to the stone. I'm going to get to work on this stone and work this panel down. It's important to understand that we're not as concerned with producing a level panel as we are in producing a flat panel. And so I'm going to work this down in between these. I'm going to keep measuring with my plumb blocks and my straight edge, and I'll cut in and out and show you some video on it, but I think you probably may have a belly full of just watching me run a hand machine. But I'll get more on here and capture this video. I'm going to get this all pulled off, all this extra bulk pulled off, and then I may even, this little spot right here is just a tiny bit low, and I'm not as happy with that as I could be, because I want to make sure I'm in pretty deep here, so it's going to come off right about there. But I may push each one of these down just a 1/16 of an inch, just a little bit of scraping on each one to get them squared up, make them nice, and I want to produce a flat plane on this face of the stone. And after I do that, then we'll transfer onto it. We'll just pick a side and we'll transfer out and decide where I can get the value or bulk or volume out of the stone. And but there's a line here that may be a crack, so it may end up going way into here. I don't know. I've got to do some studying on the stone and figure it out. But appreciate you watching. Hope you're learning something. Oh, before I go, as far as plumbing your suction, this is one of my booms. I've got one with the factory rectangular end on it that you've seen me using, and the other one I just have a round piece of pipe that comes out, and so I can adapt it. Now we've got all this pipe work. It looks pretty impressive. All it is some sewer pipe, some thin wall 4-inch sewer pipe from your local box store, plumbing supply store, whatever. They just have flared ends and you slip it together. And so you can connect one to the other, or you can cut them on a bias and then get your duct tape out and might hook them together. Now, how do you connect one to the next one? Well, you get your old coffee cans. And if you like to drink a certain kind of coffee, buy a bunch of these small cans as you're using them. Because those small cans are a perfect fit inside here. And so you can cut both ends off the cans, use it as a sleeve, and then connect it like this. And you can, I've got I don't know, half a dozen or 8 different pieces like this. You know, if I want to connect different things, if I want to extend this so I can reach around and get a pretty complicated structure. We've used drainage pipe like you use for corrugated drainage pipe, and that will settle out a lot of the rocks, but it also disrupts a lot of airflow. This is smooth, so it flows better. So this is one way to have a longer suction trunk, depending on how big your suction is. Now, you can get a woodworking suction kit, you know, with the big bags on them and whatever, and that's why I mentioned the Dust Deputy. Because if I had I started my first couple stones before I got my big torque machine or my torque portable. I just had a woodworking head with that had 2 big sets of bags on it, and if you have that with a larger cyclone, it'll make a huge difference when you're stone carving, and then you don't have as much dust to deal with. The dust is also valuable depending on what kind of work you do. If you do stone work, you can make mud out of the dust for sandblasting. When you're going over something where you already blew the letters, you can use it to blue the stone, to actually impregnate and color the stone, to give it a different value that's far more durable than lithographic paint. That's an old technique. I'll probably show you that on here because nobody's doing it. Most people don't know. Most people don't have access to the dust. I do. So I blew a lot of stuff because I love how it gives me just a little bit of color difference, a little difference in value, and can make certain things pop. So, but there's a little more background on this. Let's cut some stone. We'll probably have to do a couple more videos on this one because it ain't gonna happen overnight. I gotta clean this face off, and then we'll get back into it. But I want to talk a little bit about equipment. You know, I collect up your metal buckets, get some metal paint buckets for your chips. I need to rake the floor so I don't twist my ankle stepping on a stone. And I also wanted to show you this. One thing that we use a lot of to clean up, I've got an extra piece of hose off a, I don't know, shop vac, something, I don't know what it is. Cut a hole in a block of wood, piece of wood, and you put it right against your suction. Now you've got a nice little vacuum nozzle you can clean everything up with. And this is a nice option if you've got something that's tied or fixed in one place, instead of unhooking it to move it. Like if you're working on a piece where you've got a weight, you tie like we got an old hand machine with a cord to it. And you hook it around here and you can hang it on over a stone or around a neck or whatever. And if you want to go and get a little closer to pick up special stuff, you can do this to get rid of your gravel and your chunks. So just something else to think about. But looks like this is a 15-minute video already. Maybe we'll just call this good, get this posted, and I'll be back with the next video, and we'll show you more about stone carving. But this gives you an idea on some more equipment, on your dust management, and so hopefully it's good to be safe, man. It really is, because you'll think you're gonna last forever until you can't breathe, and once the dust is in you, it's in there for good. So none of these chintzy masks, no N95, no fake mask, no homemade mask, no bandana, whatever. If you don't have a P100 mask with P1 cartridges that say P100 on it, you don't need to be wearing a mask. There's no use in having it. So get the right mask, take care of yourself, manage your dust, and we'll put this on and call it a video, and because I want to get cutting this stone. I'm tired of talking. I want to cut stone. So once again, my name's Clint Button here at Carolina Sculpture Studio with the Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship, video number 12, talking about dust management, dust collectors, and a few options to boost your easy to buy products like a shop vac or regular wood shop dust collector. So thanks for coming in.